stopped him, which was really difficult. So it was really hard, but when I saw the violence to my daughter, I thought, how do I stop this? What do I do? It was difficult. So.
Yeah. Any tips for assisting the military personnel with liaising with the deaf community?
Okay, so actually to start you'd need to find out what their communication need actually is, so whether they're a signer or somebody that's deaf that can speak, or maybe you'd need to enlist the support of a lip speaker or somebody that can provide something that you've spoken into an accessible form for them. And their preferred method of communication is important. Deaf, not everybody needs an interpreter. Maybe just a lip speaker would support them. You need to identify what form of deafness and what their preferred communication style is.
But I'm also aware that there are plenty of people who perhaps this will be the first time that these matters have come to the fore. Similarly, I was in the same position that he had been in. Didn't have any deaf family or friends. I had no exposure dealing with deaf people. I've been in the police for 9 years. I had never knowingly met a deaf person, whether in my own life or in the police life.
So how important is it that the police consider the different communication needs that a deaf person might have?
It's absolutely vital. I think the biggest mistake we can make is assuming that we know how a deaf person is going to communicate. And we really have to consider whether a person is a deaf sign language user, whether they lip read, perhaps a deaf-blind person who uses either the deaf-blind manual alphabet or hands-on communication, or someone who's been deafened later on in life. And that will vary massively, so we might have a much better grasp of English word order and language than, for example, a sign language user. So it's really important to consider the individual rather than generalising about deaf communication.
But of course, the deaf people who don't have any other mobility issues, it's not a problem getting into a building. The problem, certainly within the policing context, is what happens when I'm face to face with the other person behind the glass. That's when I don't have access.
Thank you. And if somebody had an emergency, what would the best way for a deaf person be to contact the police?
So it is just simply by texting 999. What you have to bear in mind is two things. Firstly, it takes 4 times longer than a voice call. And secondly, that you need to register your phone first before you use the service. Otherwise the text won't go through. And you can get more information online simply by searching emergency SMS.
Thank you very much.
You know, lots of people are just not deaf aware. They know nothing about deafness, deaf culture, sign language. So there's an awful lot of educating for us to do. And then once they know, that's much easier for them to actually engage with deaf people that need to access their services. You know, children, they will often keep this stuff bottled up. You know, they will not want to say something because it's their mum and dad. So you bring in a professional who is a specialist with children, who's good at getting them, so if it's not a therapist, to get them to disclose by using other types of medium. So there are different support workers specifically for those children. And it's different as well all across the country. It depends on what services you have locally. But yes, children are, you know, they're a priority, but yes, for them it's very painful.
We take a few of those. That would be really cool.
Yes, possible.
Yeah, we've got 11 messages that we can run out.
Okay, so there's lots of hearing services out there. Why do you think there needs to be a separate one for deaf people? I think what's really important about Deaf Hope is that yes, there are lots of hearing services out there, but for deaf people they can't access them. They don't understand about deaf culture. So quite often, although deaf people give them the information, they can't manage with those services. There's no access to sign language, there's no engagement between them, so Deaf Hope can actually offer them the choice, explain their rights to them. So having Deaf Hope makes a massive difference. That's why we need to have a service like Deaf Hope. Okay, Claire, so with Deaf Hope, do you work with other agencies? How does that work? Or does Deaf Hope have to be part of that? Yes, so it's really important. When you've got an individual, there might be all these different services that they need support from. But you know, they don't know about sign language and deaf culture, and quite often lots of information gets missed and it doesn't work very well. So that's how Deaf Hope gets involved, is to make sure that we're working with the social worker, with health, with the NHS, working with the police, working with all the agencies that might be around that victim, and helping them to understand how they need to focus on the deaf woman and help her in her specific situation. So we need Deaf Hope to advocate between those different services so that there's a good outcome.
How was the day? It was fantastic.
Great day.
I've had a great day.
Good information.
Lots of good information. That's it. That's great. Thank you.
Great day.
Great day. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to Catherine Farnborough for inviting us to come today. It was brilliant. At Rushmoor Borough Council. Thank you. Many thanks to you.
But we'll bear it in mind and see what happens.